Hello stationery friends, Frank here, and today we're going to be taking a closer look at my Midori 5-year diary and how it's holding up, my new page anchor, and my revised reading nook. Before we begin, there are a couple of clarifications I should do from the last video. This is starting to become a bit of a habit, but I will endeavor to make sure that these don't happen as much or at all moving forward. It's always good to set targets, I suppose. One in particular was the Pilot Custom 743 that I had recently acquired, and I was talking about the Pilot Custom 823 and the different nib options that are available for both pens in terms of the particular of the FA nib or the flex nib. I should be really careful, it's not technically the flex nib, it's an FA nib or a Falcon nib, not to be confused with the Pilot Falcon. By the way, if you're interested in all of this, Brian Goulet on the Goulet YouTube channel has done a fantastic job of talking about the Pilot FA nib versus the Pilot Falcon pen. I was misinformed, I won't go into all the details, but there are different options available for the 823, including the FA nib available in Japan. One of my commenters even pointed out that a shop in the States, which I can't remember, does also offer the different options on the 823. The other thing I should talk about is the Bainu pen here. I was comparing medium nibs in not a methodical approach way in terms of the medium nibs that I own in different pens. Also with respect to the consistent ink. I had mentioned in the video that I wasn't doing this with respect to consistency in terms of a test, and I probably should at some point in the future. But in particular, it was the mention of the nibs on some of the pens, and in Bainu I had accidentally mentioned Yovo. Not sure what I was thinking there, but it is a Schmidt number 6 nib. This is a medium nib in this guy here. It's a beautiful pen, and I should know better because I even did a video on the Bainu pen, which does, in fact, mention the Schmidt nib. If you're interested in checking out that video, click here. So, let's talk about the Midori 5-year diary. The Midori 5-year diary is one of my most used notebooks. It is used actually on a daily basis most of the time. Sometimes I just things get busy and it goes maybe a few days before I come back and fill in the 5-year diary. Anyhow, I did a video on the 5-year diary, the Midori 5-year diary here, if you're interested, check it out. But I did receive a few questions from commenters in terms of how it's holding up, what I like about it, if it's still kind of meeting the needs that I had intended. In fact, one of my commenters was mentioning that she was finishing up a Leuchtturm 5-year diary and was curious about the Midori version. There are many 5-year journal options out there, and the premise, of course, is just a couple of lines a day for 5 years, all in one notebook. Hobonichi does one, Midori obviously does one, Leuchtturm does one, and there's a few others that I can't think of in terms of brand names off the top of my head, but I have seen out there. All that being said, let's dive over to the desk and take a closer look at my 5-year diary and how I'm liking it. I've had the 5-year diary for 3 years now, and this is the Midori version again, just to be clear. I always keep it in the hard sleeve in terms of the question around how it has fared. I typically keep it in the hard sleeve. Sometimes, though, I do tend to leave it a couple days without the hard sleeve if I just am forgetful. The cover is a linen cover. It's a soft cover. It feels like linen. Maybe it is. I can't quite remember. But either way, what I'm trying to highlight here is the black version here for sure has picked up cat hair and a couple of other things, so it is aging. The black isn't as rich anymore as well. It's fading a little bit. A couple of scuffs when it's not in the hardcover, but the gold is still very rich and beautiful. In terms of the spine and things like that, it's still doing a really good job and holding up. It's a sturdy spine. Doesn't look like there's any damage or wear and tear. And I really like that. As I mentioned in the original video of this, the whole intent for me to do something like this was to keep a bit of an heirloom that I could pass on. And as with all 5-year diaries, the intent, of course, is to just fill out a couple of pages, a couple of lines, sorry, or a few lines per day. And that's what I've been doing. So this is, as I mentioned, year 3. I bought this in 2022. Now I'm in 2024. And it is being filled in consistently. There are a couple of page markers, or page ribbons, I should say, which, you know, it's funny, I should probably be a bit more organized about how I use them. I typically, as the weeks go by, just leave them in the start. I do have a blotting paper that I use as a page marker more than anything else. I write with fountain pens in this book. It is fountain pen friendly paper. It's Midori paper. It's nice and smooth. And I know this may drive a few people nuts. Certainly when I originally posted the video, people were asking me if I was going to keep a consistent ink throughout the year for each of the years. And I tried, but eventually I just gave up. I think you can see here on year 2, for example, I was swapping inks left, right, and center. And I think it just really honestly came down to the fact that I was just reaching for a pen that I had in the vicinity. There are a couple of little things that are happening over time, like some of my pages are being folded over, but that's nothing to do with the quality of the book. That's more to do with me. One of the other questions was how many pages per month? There are typically 31 pages per month. And in February, for the leap years, there is an extra page for the leap year. Every single month, to answer the question fully, every single month has 31 pages, and on the months that don't have 31 days, you're given an extra page to write. Clearly, I am not taking advantage of that. Oh yeah, I should also mention that they have a couple of pages at the start of the year and at the end of the year too. And I guess some of the gripes I have with respect to this book. I like that it is small, it's a compact size, but one of the things that can drive me nuts some days, especially when there's just so much that has happened in a day, is the limit of the 5 lines, and I would hazard a guess. Actually, let's just make sure that I've got this right. I think it's 6mm line spacing. Indeed, it is 6mm line spacing. It's pretty small. So I find it a struggle some days, especially when things are quite busy and I want to write a lot about that particular day. I've got to be really careful of what I pick, or what I want to write about. Otherwise, I will run out of room very quickly. So I guess that's a bit of a gripe, but at the same time, it's actually a really good thing in my mind, or it's a positive thing, because it really forces me to concentrate on what is the most important thing I would like to remember on that particular day. So I do like it as well. Yeah, I guess that's a bit hypocritical, but that's just one of the things. Now, I mentioned in the original video as well that I thought perhaps in my surmising that it was harder for Westerners just because of our writing versus the Japanese who write in kanji, if that was going to be where the drawback on space really came from. And sure enough, I had a couple of Japanese commenters point out that this also can be not enough space for the Japanese as well. So good to know that there's space constraints no matter which part of the world you're from. Like I said, though, a bit rambling here with respect to space, how it's constraining, but I think it's actually a really good thing. If I want to write more, I typically go over to my long form journal, which is an A5. Oh look, I've spilled a little bit of ink here at some point. I really like the little images, though. That's one of my favorite things about this book, is I think just the character and the aesthetic is just really, really nice. So that is something to also keep in mind in terms of overall aesthetics in your book. So I hope that answers questions with respect to how it's doing for me and it's fit for purpose for me. I keep it on my desk. I typically fill it out in the morning, as I've mentioned in my journaling video or how to journal video. If you've been following my channel for a while, you'll notice that I have a lovely page anchor on top of my traveler's notebook here. This guy is always on my traveler's notebook, and I keep it on me at all times. Well, the folks at Page Anchor noticed that I like to talk about the Page Anchor. It is something that I use quite a bit for journaling and reading, and they were kind enough to offer to collaborate and send me a custom engraved page anchor of my choice. I chose the Obsidian Black, and I thought it would be great to do a quick unboxing of this guy just so you guys could see what comes in a brand new page anchor box. So we'll take a closer look at that. I have a page anchor on my traveler's notebook. I use it to keep the pages flat as I journal. I also just really like the aesthetic. And this was originally a gift, this gold version here. Page Anchor, as I mentioned there, decided to reach out to me, and I'm very grateful for that, and have sent me a new page anchor, custom engraved, with respect to our collaboration moving forward. When they asked me what color I wanted, I decided that I'd go, my wife has a rose gold, this one here is a signature gold, so just standard gold, and I figured I would get something different and try out the Black Obsidian, or Obsidian Black. These page anchors were designed for books and to hold open your book. I use it a lot for journaling, and I keep it on my traveler's notebook, which I use as a commonplace book for writing notes as I'm reading. And so I will also use my page anchor as it was intended for on my books. Hang on, share your unboxing experience with us, page anchor, and feel free to use this as a bookmark. Oh, that's a beautiful bookmark. It's been a long time since I unboxed a page anchor, so many years ago now. I'm curious if I had this originally. Maybe not. But the back of this beautiful, definitely think I'll use this as a nice bookmark. In the box, you've got a little pouch for your page anchor. Page anchor use guide, so how to use the page anchor with respect to inserting the pins of the page anchor. And the whole intent of the page anchor, again, as I mentioned, originally designed for reading books, was to basically keep your book flat as you're reading it, or mostly flat, and not have to hold the book down with your thumbs as you were reading. So the page anchor was designed around that idea. Some tips for better care. Microfiber cloth. And here it is, the page anchor. So as I mentioned, Page Anchor, the company, offered to do a custom engraving, and I figured I would get it engraved with Stationery at 4. Well, it looks very beautiful. This is the Obsidian Black, and I am in love instantaneously. Very gorgeous lettering on that. I like that a lot. And here is my more scuffed up gold page anchor for comparison. The custom engraving costs a little bit more. I think it's $20 more. It in use with reading, so opening it up, grabbing a few pages, sliding it down, and voila. If you're interested in picking up the page anchor, I'm going to do a bit more of a detailed video here. This was just an unboxing. You can go to the website and you can use a discount code that I've been given by them. It's called STAT4, and in full transparency, I make a tiny bit of a commission off of it, but you get a 25% discount. I'll put that in the description below. I think the Obsidian Black is actually quite a nice complement with respect to my traveler's notebook. I love to read, as I've mentioned in a few different videos here and on the page anchor section right there. And one of the things I really like about reading is finding a beautiful, comfortable spot to read in. In the room I'm in here, this is our study. My wife and I, we call it our study because it's so stationary, analog focused, with obviously my computer in the background here, and background being over on that desk, which is my desk, and my wife's desk being behind me, which used to be my desk, but that's a whole different thing. Anyhow, I had a reading chair in the corner of our study, an IKEA Poang. I like the Poang chairs, they're pretty comfortable, but I find that they recline quite a bit back, which is really nice. But inevitably, if I sat in that reading chair, I would fall asleep within 10-15 minutes pretty quickly. And so I decided to switch things out, change things up, and I really wanted to make sure that I had a nice, cozy spot right by the window here, and in particular being able to be nice and low to the ground, because I like to be nice and low to the ground, but still find a chair that's pretty comfortable. There's we bought this chair many years ago. It's a chair from a company called Stillness Room, and I don't actually know if they're still around or if they're functioning. I'll put a link in the description below here. One of the other things you'll notice over here where the cats are, and by the way, thank you to the commenter who mentioned in my last video, or responded to my last video saying mentioning cats but not showing them is an act against the Geneva Convention. I just fell out of my chair laughing. That was really hilarious. Anyhow, here you go. Here are my cats. I had obviously lots of books on these two shelves, but I really wanted to have a comfortable spot for my cats. So I ended up just clearing off the books, clearing off the books and playing around with the shelf height so that they were comfortable. And both cats join me now while I'm reading. So I really enjoy their company. I guess you could call me a cat dad if you want to do that. And I like what we've done with this little corner. And this is where in the mornings, early mornings, I will go to read, and in the evenings before bed, I will come to sit and read with a cup of coffee or some tea and just enjoy my books. A few videos ago, I was also talking about my desire for a really good dark black ink, fountain pen ink, to go in some of my fountain pens. In particular, in that video, I was talking about my Kaweco Brass Sport. A lot of commenters pointed me in the direction of the Platinum Carbon Black ink. And I have to say, I've ended up picking one of these up. I have to say, thank you. It's been absolutely wonderful. I've loved this back so much. It's a very rich, dark black. Not as black as some of the other great options that I think a few commentators were pointing out, but really good. And I also like the aspect to that it's a pigment dye based ink, so it has really strong capabilities of water resistance in that. So I bought a jar of the Platinum Carbon ink, and I've inked it up in my Nabler Black. I inked it up in my Brass Sport in a cartridge and plugged that guy in, and I've also got it in a TWSBI Eco. That's how much I love this black ink. It is beautiful. It's very nice and rich and dark, and I really have been enjoying it for sketching. So thank you very much. I just wanted to do a quick shout out to the community for pointing me in the right direction and helping me out. And on that note, thanks very much for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful week ahead. Take care, and bye for now.